Turbo. Hey guys, and welcome to our official YouTube tutorial channel. Today we're going to be going over some fun tools that Turbo has. Mainly we're going to be focusing on our Turbo AI tool. So if you guys don't have Turbo installed, we will need that. So we have some video tutorials on helping you get started with that. I'll make sure to put those links in the description to jump into it. So if we press start here, we can go into our resources section, and in the resources section we have a Turbo Game Developer GPT. In Turbo Game Developer GPT, we can use AI code to generate a game where, and then you can give it a prompt. Now, before we get that far, I'm going to run over to Turbo here, and I'm going to initialize and run a new game. So I'm going to name this Turbo Init. I'm going to call it Perfect Game because we're using AI, so it has to be perfect. So with Perfect Game initialized, I'm going to do Turbo run-w Perfect Game. If you guys are unsure of how to create or get started with a game, like if what I just did was a little over your head, I do have a video tutorial on how to structure your Turbo game, and I recommend going and taking a look at that just so you can get the basics down. It'll help you. So now with this game initializing in the background, perfect, it is done. I'm going to head over to the librs and open that up real quick. Alright, so now I have the librs open for my perfect game, and I've already typed in some prompts to this. So I have two that I've typed in that's already generated. If you type one in, this is just what it looks like. This guy is falling. Give it something hard. Down here, it's going to start writing a game based off of this prompt that you gave it. And honestly, it might be a bit confused by what I mean by the sky is falling. You can see right here in the config, it's named it, given it a version, author. It's saying that the description is to avoid falling objects, and then it's initializing, adding in some kind of variables here to the init. But I just wanted you to see what it looks like when it's generating the code. Ultimately, we're going to use these other prompts that I have already done. So I set a platformer where the main character can dash and jump. So it made me a game called Hero Dash, and it says that the description is where the main character can dash and jump. It has in the init our game state struct here, which has a lot of variables, and then in the go loop it has some logic here on what's going on. So I'm just going to take this, like all of it, and I'm going to copy it. I'm going to see how good of a job that it did. And I'm going to paste it into here. And I am going to save this. And I'm going to see just how awesome my game is. There's no errors, but this game is lacking something pretty important, which is, I guess, like a movable object to act as like the main character. So it's cool. It made a background. It added what looks like a ground or a platform. It's hard to tell. And it added a score. So in this game, if I had a playable character, I imagine I would be able to walk on the ground and do something to increase that score. Let me take a look at some of this code here. And here's the issue. So it's trying to draw a sprite. Now, I don't have a hero sprite drawn, and the AI is not smart enough to just fully draw me a hero sprite. So instead, what I can do is I can draw a rectangle, and I can copy the code above here, rect code right here, and the X value will be the state hero, it'll be the Y, so none of this really needs to change except, I believe, this FPS, because it's not an animated rectangle. There we go, got the little block in now. Cool. It doesn't kind of load into like where I want it to be. It looks like it's a little bit above that. That could be because it was adjusting for the sprite or something else, but oh cool, I can jump, and then it looks like I can dash too. Cool. So this is actually pretty neat. So when I did this a while ago, and it did not give me anything close. This is pretty cool. it's given me a game that has like logic where I can jump and move left and right, and on top of that I can dash. Here's the coolest thing about AI. This isn't really meant to just like you type in a prompt, you get this game, and now congrats, you have the next best game at a game jam near you. If you are new to this or been doing it for a while, what this is going to allow you to do is you're going to be able to input some type of prompt or genre based off of what it is you want to do, and you'll be able to see the code here working the way it does. This game in and of itself is giving us movement, it's giving us dashing, it's giving us a jump as well, and gravity. So it's giving us like 3 like key kind of platformer mechanics just based off of like a prompt that I've generated with Turbo AI. So if I had no idea where to start, no idea what to do, but I know I wanted to make a platformer, this gives me a lot of the code I would need to start off with something. So I can see that like if I wanted movement, I can do a gamepad left pressed, and I can manipulate an X velocity that I've defined up here. And then I can say that if I'm dashing, then it's going to do this, and if not, it's going to do this. So you have like an if else for movement here. The jump, for example, you need to be on the ground and clicking A. You can't be in the air. A lot of issues when people first start coding something is they'll, like for example, a jump. You'll do a jump, and you'll just assume that gravity exists, that the game engine knows what gravity is, it knows what these things are, and unless your game engine has like physics in it, it's not going to know that what a ground is. It's not going to know when you're grounded or when you're in the air. You have to kind of tell it that and define that. So you can see just in this code how it's doing that, what kind of logic needs to be defined, what needs to be done to have that happen. Because if you didn't have a state on ground and you didn't have a jump timer here, essentially what would happen is you would jump, and gravity. If you didn't have any of those 3 things, you'd jump, your character wouldn't fall, and you would honestly just keep jumping and you can keep rising, and it wouldn't be much of a jump, it'd be more of like a fly or a float or just like moving upward. This is like the really cool thing about AI, is you can see how a lot of this stuff happens and use it for your own games. You can generate a prompt, look at the code, but a lot of this stuff is really cool. Honestly, this kind of helps me out with some of the stuff that I'm working on, seeing how this does it, and now I have an idea for the game I'm working on and how I can make this happen. This is all really cool in terms of just trying to figure your way through doing something that you wouldn't know how to do off the bat. So that is one of the biggest key benefits of using something like Turbo's AI. Let's take a look at that other prompt I made real quick just to see what this does. And I said make a game where the player can collide with platforms. So I am going to copy all of this, throw it into my code over here. So if I save that, we can see that we have an error. So on one end of the spectrum, we got a pretty like working game. We just had to change the sprite draw to like a placeholder rectangle. This one didn't even do the gamepad like code correctly. So let's go up here, and it says gamepad button pressed. So I guess it just didn't realize what button needed to be pressed here. I'm gonna do gamepad up pressed because I think it's trying to jump here. So I'm gonna do gamepad up pressed, and I'm gonna save it and see. Whoops. Get rid of that. And I'm gonna save that now, and it looks like we have something going on here. So much like our last game, I'm gonna assume that, okay, so it did draw the player as a circle. So let me reload it. Okay, cool. So our player falls out the bottom. This is much more similar to the first game that I used AI with. This is kind of what I was expecting with that Hero Dash game, but honestly that came in kind of clutch. This right here, it looks like if I reload it and constantly reload, you can see him fall out the bottom. Now there is some controls here, so I'm going to see if I can get those to work. For whatever reason, my character can't collide with any of the platforms. Now I specifically said make a game where the player can collide with platforms. So somewhere within this code we have the player probably trying to collide with platforms, but it just not working out. The whole purpose of generating two different prompts with like similar game mechanics here, I have a prompt that hit it out of the park. It worked awesome. It had pretty much all those mechanics working that I wanted to work. So it had like collision, gravity, dashing, jumping. What I'm trying to showcase here is that you could have a game that really zeroes in on your mechanics and shows you how to do them, and you can get a really good example of how to do them, as with the Hero game here, Hero Dash. If it gives you a bad prompt or like a bad kind of example on the first time, don't give up on it. Just kind of try to change your wording with it and see if you can get something that is either working or at least doing the mechanic that you're trying to figure out. So if I were to start off, let's say again I wanted to make a platformer game, which we'll have a tutorial coming soon based off of this, but let's say that I want to make a platformer game and I have no idea how to handle gravity. Gravity is a pretty big thing in like a platformer game, unless you're going for a zero gravity platformer game, which could be interesting. But let's say you're doing that, then and you have no idea how to get it done. Well, you type in a turbo game with gravity and you see if that works. And then you can kind of look at that code and analyze it and see if that's working for you. You can do this with a number of things. Let's say you want to do a turn-based game, but you have no idea. Let's say you want to do a title screen, but you have no idea. Anything that you just kind of don't have any direction on or any sort of way to get started, it's really easy to get stuck with coding and programming. Like just getting started in general can be really difficult. And it's something I've always been really passionate about. So when I say that there's all these tools that you can use, the Discord, ask us questions, the AI, make a prompt, see if it works out, see if you can understand that logic and whatnot. This has been another official Turbo YouTube tutorial. My name is Chris, and I hope that you guys continue to make games fast and use the Turbo AI as a strong tool doing so.